So many guitar learners struggle with F major, and I see a tendency to rather avoid the songs with an F than to embrace them. But to be honest, there is no way around learning F major. And that's why in this video I want to show you everything you need to be able to play F. I'm going to show you 4 beginner-friendly alternatives, starting with the easiest. We're going to have a look at all the methods you need to be able to play F as a bar chord, and we're going to make it practical and implement F in a chord progression so that you're absolutely prepared for your next song with an F. Alternative number 1 looks and sounds like so. It looks a bit like 3 stairs, or like your C major, but we're on different strings here. We're on the B string, 1st fret, that's the 2nd from the bottom, 1st fret. Then G string, 3rd from the bottom, 2nd fret. And then D string, which is the 4th from the bottom, 3rd fret. And we want to make sure that those middle 4 strings are sounding. If you can't hear all the 4 strings, you're probably a bit too flat here. So make sure your fingers are round. And what we don't want to hear is the thickest string, the E string here, and the thinnest E string. And you can achieve that by having your index finger flat, so it mutes the high E string. And for your low E string, you have 2 choices. Either you avoid it when you strum, or you have your thumb up to mute the low E string. And I'll show you how I do it with the thumb. I have it right on the edge here, so that the fleshy part of the thumb is muting that low E string. This chord is called F over A because A is the bass note here and not F anymore, but it works just fine for many songs. Alternative number 2 sounds and looks like so. Of the 4 choices that I'm going to show you, I would always choose this one because it sounds way more balanced than the other ones. We are on the B string, 1st fret, so 2nd string from the bottom, 1st fret, G string, 2nd fret, D string, 3rd fret with your little finger, and then A string, 3rd fret with your ring finger. We want to make sure that those middle 4 strings are sounding again. And here it's the same. If you don't hear that sound yet, you're probably a bit too flat so that you have some strings muted. So keep those fingers round enough to make sure that those 4 notes are coming out of the guitar. And again, what we don't want to hear is the low and the high E string. And you have again those 2 choices here. For your thickest string, either you bring your thumb up to mute that string, or you avoid it when you strum, which I find is a bit harder to do. And the thinnest E string, you can mute that by having your index finger flat enough to touch that string slightly and make it mute. Alternative number 3 might be the easiest approach if you already know D major, that triangle here, because it's the very same fingering but on a different fret. We're on the bottom string, 5th fret, the 2nd from the bottom, 6th fret, and the 3rd from the bottom, 5th fret again. And make sure that your index finger is flat again, so that it this time touches the D string, the one above, to make that mute. Because we only want to hear those 3 notes here that we're actually holding down. But now you can strum those last 4 strings because the D string is muted. We don't strum the 2 thickest strings. To me, this fingering or this chord voicing sounds a bit too high and unbalanced because it doesn't have any bass note in it. I wouldn't choose it. But if you're a beginner and you want to get started, that might be an easy approach for you, especially when you already know D major. Alternative number 4 looks and sounds like so. We're on the bottom 4 strings here, and our fingering looks very much the same as the first fingering, the 3 stairs, but this time the index finger is flat enough to hold down those 2 bottom strings here. If you can't make it sound like so yet, try the following. You only hold down those 2 strings with your index finger, with the first bit of that index finger here, and make those sound good first. And then you add your middle finger on the G string 2nd fret, and try to make sure that you keep those notes that you already got. And then when you get that, you add your ring finger, 3rd fret, D string, and make that voicing complete. Now let's have a look at F major played as a bar chord, which would be the real deal if you want so. And this is because now F major sounds really balanced or really full, like all the other chords you might know already, like C major and G major and E minor, and now we got F major. With the bottom end, we have low notes, we have high notes, and we have everything in between. But before you try to play F major as a bar chord, let's do a few exercises that will lead you the way to that chord. Alright, so to make things easy first, we move to the middle of the fingerboard. We're on the 5th fret here, because it's way easier to hold down strings here. Our first goal is to put that index finger into place, and we want to make sure that the thickest string is sounding and the bottom 2 strings here are sounding, all held by only the index finger. And a couple of things here: make sure your index finger is very close to the fret wire. It sometimes looks a bit, when you look from the front, that I'm on top of the fret wire, which I'm not. I'm just very close to it. Then the other thing is, roll your index finger a bit to the left side, right, just like so. And the next thing is, where do you place your index finger? And this is a bit of a personal preference or a personal thing, because all fingers are a bit different. But in general, it's a good idea to start with that joint here, playing the bottom 2 strings, and then the tip of the index finger should be on the low E string. If you can't seem to make those 3 strings sound, try the following approach. You play only one of those strings first. Let's say you play the low string first, you make that sound, and then you flatten the index finger and add the other 2 fingers, add the other 2 notes without losing the first one. You can also do it the other way around. You start with the bottom string first, make that sound, then you add the next one, make those sound, and then you add that low E string. When you got all that, you can move it 1 fret to the left and make it sound there, and again 1 to the left, and again, until you're finally on the 1st fret here, which is where we want to place our F major then later. The next exercise would be to make that whole chord sound, but we're again on the 5th fret here, and then later we move it to the 1st fret. So index finger is on the 5th fret, and you already know how to put that into place. And then you add the middle finger on the 3rd string from the bottom, 6th fret. you add the little finger, 4th string from the bottom, 7th fret, and then you add your ring finger, 5th string from the bottom on the 7th fret again. And try to make sure that really all those strings are sounding. A classic would be that the ring finger needs to be a bit closer to the fret wire here, otherwise it will be buzzing like so. So a bit closer to the right. And also make sure that your joints don't collapse like that, especially the middle finger. Keep them round. And if you can't seem to do that, check if your fingernail is a bit too long, because that would be a reason for it to collapse, because your fingernail is pushing your finger away from the fingerboard. And if you got all those strings sounding, you move it 1 fret to the left. Do the same here. Then 1 fret again to the left, until you're finally on the 1st fret, which would be our F major chord. And there's a third exercise that I recommend doing to build up that strength that you need in your hand to play bar chords, which would be you're on the 5th fret again with your whole chord, with the whole fingering, and you only touch the strings, but you don't push, and then you strum, and then you push, and then you strum again. So you have that on-off movement. And try to make sure when the chord is off, if you want so, that you fully relax, but keep those fingers in place. So let's get practical. We want to play C, F, and G. And for C, I take this fingering here, those 3 stairs again, and I have my thumb up here to mute the low E string. And for G, I take this fingering here. I'm on the low E string 3rd fret, and I'm on the high E string 3rd fret. And I keep my middle finger flat so that the A string can't sound. All right, so the first thing that you need here is to move from C to F. And we do that very slowly. And the goal here is to move all the fingers at the same time and to arrive with all fingers at the same time. One cool thing here is the ring finger doesn't leave its place. So we're on the 3rd fret A string for both chords here. So keep that as an anchor, and then you move chords. And what I do here is I don't press down all the time, but when I change chords, I leave off the pressure, but I keep touching the string and I keep it in place while I move. Also have a look what your middle finger does. It only goes down 1 string here, so it's on the D string for C major, and it's on the G string for F major. So that's a very small distance, so keep it that small. Next thing here is your little finger. It helps a lot if you could keep it just relaxed naturally next to the ring finger, because then it's not far away from where you need it for your F major. See that? Have a look at the little finger, very relaxed next to the ring finger, and then here for F. And also make sure, like I said, we want to move all fingers at the same time. We want to arrive at the same time, which means your index finger starts with its move at the same time. You want it to arrive at the same time and not later than all the other fingers. And the next thing that you need is you want to move from F to G. which is a bit easier, but there's one thing to mention. So F, you would be here, and have a look what the thumb does. I move to the right with the whole hand, including the thumb. So for F, I have it a bit to the right of the index finger, and then for G, I have it a bit to the left of the middle finger. So keep the thumb moving for F to G. And when you got all that with the slowly moving from one chord to the other, the next thing would be to have a constant rhythm, to have some time pressure, and to move from one chord to the other. So let's do it with C to F first. We have 4 downstrokes on C, and then we only play 1 on F, and we want to keep that constant rhythm. Let's do it again and jump into that F major. And one more time. And if you feel like your F major is all over the place and not anymore like F major, then go back to the exercises that we did before, where you move slowly from C to F. And when you feel more comfortable with that, then go back to this exercise here. And the next thing that you need is the same for F to G. So you play 4 downstrokes on F and 1 on G. Let's do it again. 4 on F, 1 on G. And again, keep that thumb moving from F to G. Keep that whole hand moving. And when you got that, you want to play the same exercise for C to F to G. So 4 downstrokes on C, 4 on F, and we do just 1 on G, yeah? The goal here is to eliminate those gaps that might be there when you move chords. Okay, let's do it one more time. So now you're fully prepared to play songs with an F in it. Now that I got you into playing bar chords, here's my in-depth video with all the methods you're gonna need to master all bar chords.